States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
250th anniversary of the United States, so I've got 2 flags for
Good morning, everyone, and with that, today is June the 18th, and this is the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Port of the Islands Community Improvement District. We should show that we have a quorum today. Mr. Baird and Mr. Kish and Ms. Hanson are here, and Ms. Sager and Mr. Truckee are participating by Zoom. And in just a minute, we'll reflect the approval of the agenda, and that motion should also include the participation by Ms. Sager and Mr. Truckee citing extraordinary circumstances to qualify them to participate in today's meeting. Otherwise, that takes us down to the approval of the agenda. I don't have any additions today.
I don't. Anybody else?
With that, then you can entertain a motion to approve the agenda with that separate participation by your other 2 colleagues.
I make a motion to accept the agenda. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 3 today are public comments for matters not on today's agenda index. We have 2, Mr. McNamee, and following Mr. McNamee will be Mr. Zio.
3 things real quick. I've been gone for a while, a couple months. Anyway, when I got back, I rode my bike all the way around. Yesterday, I drove my boat all the way around. This place looks great. You guys are doing a great job of keeping this place up. I also want to thank you for getting those new rules of decorum into place. That was a good thing. And I've been watching the meetings on Zoom, and I just have one thing I wanted to bring up, and the fact that sometimes the people are calling an attorney and they're talking to the audience, and when they do that, the Zoom doesn't pick it up. So if we could get people to, direct to talk to the board rather than talk to the community, it works out better for the Zoom meetings. Thank you guys, you're doing a great job.
Zito?
Good morning, Alan Zito, Port of the Islands Marina. Neil, I submitted the correct information to your company about the the inquiry about purchasing the lot 289 Cage Drive.
They all received that.
They all did?
They did.
Is that something that we want to talk about today, or is that something that needs to be talked about next meeting if it's put on the agenda?
The pleasure of the board.
I guess some general comments. We haven't made a surplus declaration as to that property. And however, if we received an offer, you can feel free to discuss it. So I think it's an appropriate question. But I also recognize that we're doing public comment, so I don't want to stay within the rules. But you did receive an offer here. It's not actually, it doesn't have numbers or a structure to the offer. So I don't know that it's an offer to buy real estate, but it's an offer to engage in discussion. And so what I think would be appropriate, one option, is you could set an agenda item to just talk about what are you going to do with this property generally. You purchased it. It was contracted to be used by South Florida for a manatee program. South Florida canceled the manatee program, so that will no longer be taking place. That doesn't mean, that's not why you bought it. That doesn't mean you need to get rid of it. But if you wanted to talk about the future of that property, I think that would be an appropriate agenda item.
I thought last meeting we said we were going to get an appraisal on it.
Actually, I believe that South Florida got an appraisal on it, and that, do you have a copy of that appraisal?
I don't.
We can get that from South Florida. I believe there is an appraisal. It's public record of South Florida Water Management District.
When did they do that?
They did it before they paid you for the easement. Their board process would not allow them to pay you any money to use that property.
They destroyed the property.
So they have an appraisal. I will see if it was emailed to me. If not, I will request the appraisal and I can circulate it to you all. And then once you see that, you can either decide from that direction.
You need to put on make it an agenda item.
But I do think it's an appropriate agenda item, if that's what you want to do.
Would it be okay if I get my own appraisal put on it too as well? I mean, I know it's public property, or I technically can, but it might as well write the permission from you to get an appraisal so I can have somebody independently on mine too as well, maybe we can compare the two. And then maybe possibly, like I said before, I submit an offer, hearing both appraisals and then meeting somewhere in the middle, kind of ultimately be what I'd be interested in doing. If that's something the board would be interested in selling or entertaining an offer like that.
I'd probably wait till we make an agenda item and we decide what we're gonna do with the property.
Yeah, I think-
Before we spend the money on it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's the first item is definitely if the board, is the board selling this thing or not? Is it for sale, basically? And if it is for sale, then I think there's many ways that we can move forward. We could do an invitation to negotiate and ask people to come and make us offers. We could auction it off. We could do all kinds of things once we decide we're not going to use it. But that first step, which hasn't been done yet, is the board doesn't want this property. Or has no need for the property.
When we bought it, I thought that was the purpose, so that we could control what went on there. So yeah, it was always gonna be sold, or, as long as we can find the right product to go in that 3 acres, whatever the hell it is.
Well, let's make an agenda item and then talk about
Yeah,
it.
then it sounds like to move that ball, you should have an agenda item that talks about what are the parameters for that. What I would probably say is an invitation to negotiate, so that Neil can start that process and figure out what are you looking for, so that people like Mr. Zito here can have an understanding of what you're looking for. Because we're certainly not, that's not in works right now. So if that's what your thought was, you should give feedback as to what you want, so that we can figure out if this is the right fit based on that discussion.
Okay, fair enough. Before, I guess that would be a topic for next meeting, is that correct? Or some meeting soon?
I prefer to see it in August because I won't be here in July. It's up to the board. You know. Yeah, that's what I mean.
All we're talking about is what it's gonna be used for.
How you want to find the user. So like, what are the things you're looking for? How are you going to negotiate? Kind of like the county, and I'll use this as not cutting into your time, I apologize, but if you don't mind, when the county went out on that hotel site, you all made an offer on that, but they came back and said, no, we are going to do an IT. And so the county went out.
They're gonna do a what?
An invitation to negotiate. So they've sent out a formal process, which we're going to talk about today, whether you want to participate in that process, and said, here's what we're looking for, that seems to be affordable housing. Tell us if you're going to do that. And so similarly, you can say, here's what we're looking for, and tell us if you're going to do that. Or you can also say, we're not really sure what we need to do with this. We want to know what you, the private sector, thinks is the highest best use for this property. So that's what we need to talk about, so that we can put the world on notice of what we're looking for, as opposed to just in a vacuum saying, we don't need this, let's get rid of it. Especially if your understanding was the reason we bought it was to do just that.
Good.
So July or August, I think are perfectly good times to do this. And as part of that, in the agenda material, we can put the South Florida appraisal, so that it's on the website. If you ask for it, we can give you the South Florida. Anyone can have it. It's a public record.
Can I ask for it in advance? Could I email you in your office? And,
Absolutely. So let me, and I'm trying to see if I already have it in my email, but I'm going to request it now. But I think that's if it's the pleasure of the board, that would be the way I would advise handling this.
Give them whatever information you have.
So I think the question then is just July or August, that way we're.
Let's say August for now. July is going to be busy because we've got formal budget adoption. I've got separate resolutions for you to approve revised utility rates and to establish a new charge for utility ERCs or impact fees. And so we've got quite a few business things that are important. And in the interim, we can obtain a copy of the appraisal that was done. We'll share that in advance with the board, but we'll kind of target August then for some direction on how the board wants to proceed, if everybody's satisfied with that.
okay, by me. In the meantime, I might also get another appraisal done, and then I'll have that information sent out to you too as well, so you can have both of them, if that's okay with you all.
Sure. Fine.
Okay, all right, thank you.
More information's better.
Just for what it's worth, once you give it to me, it's a public record. And
That's
so I would be obligated to treat it as such. So just timing wise, just take that into consideration. But if you want to disclose that, then once I get it, I just would need to be obligated to share it with other people that might request it.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment this morning? Yes, sir. If you'll come to front, ask you to identify yourself, just because our meeting minutes are transcribed.
What you guys. Mike White, 350 Newport Drive. In respect to that gentleman's question on the appraisal, if you have the appraisal, why isn't it posted on the webpage if it's public record?
It wasn't, we did not hire the appraiser. South Florida did, it's their public record.
Okay.
We don't have a copy of it, I've just requested a copy of it from Robert Schaefer. But generally speaking, just to take that question slightly differently, not every public record is just hosted on the website. We host specific types of records,
So
but
there's-
nothing stops you from asking.
I'm familiar with the whole process. I'm just curious that if you have an appraisal on that property for this gentleman or anyone else in this room or anyone in the county or the country that wants to purchase that land and be part of that process, I would just ask that the appraisal be available to us.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
No other public comment? Item 4 today are the minutes that are behind the next tab. These were the minutes from your May 21st board meeting. We did share these in advance, but see if you've got any suggested edits.
I have a question, not about the minutes. About something that's in this, agenda packet from last month. And it has an executive summary here on connection fee for resident connection. What is this? This looks like old information. Why is that in here? It doesn't say history, it says executive study overview.
Yeah, this was the PowerPoint presentation that you received last month from The Economist. I just thought it would be important to have their analysis as part of today's record. For the reason that I just mentioned, I'm kind of teeing up the next month's meeting. The budget is predicated on no increase in the assessment, but also a change in utility rates and the imposition of new utility impact fees or ERC charges. And I felt as part of our overall discussion, I wanted to put that into backup material for today.
But this, we don't even do any of this stuff anymore that's in here. You get, restaurant seats, bar seats, 0.08, marina slips, 0.08. What is that?
Yeah, that's some of the background history that was part of the executive summary for the work that they performed.
That was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that's correct.
Correct, but he's just alluding to, as part of his recommendations, he provided an overview of what the history of those charges have been in the past.
Okay, so.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May the 21st?
I make the motion, we approve the minutes,
No second.
all in favor?
Alright.
Item 5 today is our monthly utility contractors report. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, board. All operations at facilities during the month were in accordance with contract and regulatory requirements. All wastewater plant requirements were met and all water distribution plant requirements were met. Reuse pump system functioned as intended for outgoing pressure of the plant. The backup canal pump station is still on one pump and not communicating. The wastewater plant received 4.42 million gallons of wastewater in April. Water plant produced 2.9 million. There's still a differential issue there. The meter verification and calibration specialist should be out this month to straighten that out. I know it was off last month and I was hoping to get it done before now, but everybody's booked out pretty far and there's not a lot of guys that do that in the industry, so they're usually at least a month or so out. The reuse distribution system pumped 9.882 million gallons in April. All these say April, but they should all say May. Sorry, that's a typo on my part. All auto flushers ran and were tested. We read 864 meters and did 4 meter rereads. We used 895 gallons of chlorine between the wastewater and water plant. We performed all weekly pump station inspections, performed weekly odor control check, performed generator and automatic transfer switch load test, greased pumps and motors as necessary, cleaning calibrated inline effluent analyzers. We had a backflow repair on Stella Maris due to a leak. I have in here that we augered the line at the Newport Clubhouse. I believe I mentioned that in the last meeting. We repaired 2 backflow leaks in Peacock and another one on Stella Maris in addition to the first one. Backflow Morningstar was hit by either a vehicle or a mower. We dug up and reconnected everything that was broken and bent. We had a water leak on Sunrise K, and it ended up being a bad gasket at the meter. Other than that, we had no OSHA reportable accidents or incidents and conducted all of our safety training.
Matt, I have a question for you. On the backflow or the repair, the one that was hit, do we bill that? Do we bill that out? How do we collect on that if someone hit one and we had to fix it?
We're not sure who hit it. Typically, we would bill the CDD and then, or the CID, and then if the CID knew who had hit it, they would typically collect from that person.
What was the location?
I don't have the address exactly, but it's on Morningstar K. I can get the exact address.
Was it substantial? I mean, would it have caused damage to the vehicle or an accident report, or was it just somebody backed into it?
Yeah, it would be more like somebody backed into it. It could cause some damage to the vehicle, but it would be pretty minimal. It's not unusual for mowers or tree trimmers or somebody to run the backflow over.
I have a question about the SCADA system.
Yep.
You have it set to detect leaks.
Specific leaks, very high flow leaks. Like,
So unless somebody reports a leak, you don't know about it, unless it's very high.
correct, like a backflow leak, we wouldn't be able to pick up in our system because they're typically
Something
not.
on the wrong side.
Right, yeah, like I believe I don't get a high flow alarm until we get over 350 gallons a minute. So, and we average anywhere from 70 to 250 gallons a minute on a regular basis. So it's hard to differentiate a 5 gallon per minute leak from normal usage.
Okay.
And even still, even if the meters were connected to SCADA, it's still not enough flow to detect the leak. For like a backflow. If the pipe was completely broken, it would detect the leak.
Yeah, I was thinking more like put it at each, beginning of like each road or development at a lower rate. Might be able to find it.
Sure, the meter company that the electronic meters Camstruck that are the meters you have, they do have a network system where you can set up receivers throughout the community that will monitor each meter in real time and not, right now we're just reading them once a month and they communicate with us once a month. Where you can read them in real time and it would detect like a high flow situation per meter and it would give us instant communication if there was extremely high flow.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Thank you. Well, what would that cost?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Let's find out.
Okay.
I mean, I work with a system that will tell me I set it for 1 gallon or more, but it's on each home. So
Sub-meter?
it gives me a, yeah, it's a sub-meter.
Yeah.
That I'm too expensive for this.
Yeah, 1 gallon per minute or more?
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Like, I think somebody would, anytime they use water, would be higher than that.
No, it's it has to go on for a certain period of time.
Oh, I see, I
It's a
see.
leak.
It's overnight.
Oh, so you have like a time, a specific
Yeah,
time.
it's a 24-hour time frame. So
I
if you have a
understand.
constant flow of 1 gallon or more, it's gonna register as a leak.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that makes sense.
I get the info if you're interested.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to accept the utility report?
Make the motion that we accept the utility report.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
You gotta get
Have a good day.
Thanks, Matt. Under the manager's report today, the first item is just in further response to Mr. Kitch's question. At your meeting last month, the board approved a motion to consider reducing the utility base charges by $56. That motion passed. And so I've updated in advance of the final budget presentation next month, the survey. There are 10 major public utility systems in Southwest Florida. This is the first page of the next tab there. And it just shows both your current rate and then in addition, the proposed reduction in the base rate to $100. That would result in an average bill for 5,000 gallons, rather of $155.75 per month, or about $300 because of our bi-monthly bill process. That puts you, of the 10, that puts you like at year 6 in terms of the lowest rates. The only other rates that would be lower than yours are very old municipal systems that frankly were built with public money and grants. Naples, Bonita Springs, and the city of Fort Myers system. So I wanted to update that as part of your direction last month. In addition, the new proposed impact fee, as I prefer to charge it, or the ERC charge that was discussed and authorized for formal adoption, again at your meeting next month, will take us to 15,000. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the proposed rate for Port of the Islands upon adoption will be $15,223.70. It breaks down as follows. The water charge would be $6,084.64. The sewer or wastewater charge would be $74.8305. And a new irrigation ERC charge would be $1,656.01. That is comparable to Collier County's rates. Collier County does not charge for irrigation customers because they, by and large, do not provide irrigation at the residential level. They mostly have big wholesale customers who then distribute and resell the water that way. So as we move to the budget next month, I have already made those changes to reduce the customer fee revenue side of the utility budget. There was no directed changes on the general fund budget. We continue to work with Matt and the two different condominium associations, the hotel condo as well as the marina condo, to reconcile the number of units that are tied to the 2-inch meters that are in place there. The hotel condominium has 3 2-inch meters. We are not absolutely clear as to whether or how those were plumbed, but we've got very good estimates that we have worked with. We're having the civil engineer verify those assumptions.
This is what I asked you for 2 weeks ago?
And this is the follow-up action that has been taking place. Matt has previously prepared an aerial map that shows the actual location of the meters in question and the serial numbers for those meters that then tie back to those individual accounts that are maintained. There's a 4th meter for the hotel, this building that we're in. He has some other meters that are not active at this point. He's got a big irrigation meter and he's got a separate small meter for the old sales center. And then there's one additional large 2-inch meter that supplies the water to the marina condominium. The others are all 3/4-inch meters, or they're separately accounted for in that way.
So I should add that I met with the engineer so that we can have a document, documents, tax numbers with meter numbers, and we can work from there. So we have everybody included in this document, and then we can work on our fees and make sure it's a fair and equitable system. We need to know exactly what we have.
Well, that one I gave you that showed wastewater 641,
Yeah.
and then 22,000 for water. How are we gonna correct that?
Well,
I mean,
let's start with the basics. Let's get back to the basics. Who's got what?
yeah, but
Tie it back to the-
we're gonna have to do something about these late water bills, because why would they pay that? You get a bill for 22,000 of wastewater, wastewater, on the other bill, wastewater
Is this
and
the
water
bill?
usage was the same.
Is this the bill for the marina?
One of the bills for the marina too, the one that Yolanda does too is still messed up. So,
I don't know that they are messed up, but they are being reconciled because the intent behind Mr. Truckey's amendment to the motion that was made to adopt those rates were to charge the actual number of units that were being served to reflect the same unit owners that previously paid that on the tax bill.
right, after
The equity of it is a policy decision that the board is ultimately going to have to decide. But for example, if there are 86 hotel condominium units, they're being charged 86 base rates on the bi-monthly bill for water and sewer.
right, and when I researched Naples and Collier County, nobody's doing that.
No, the reason is nobody previously subsidized their utility system with property taxes. And so while they have different rationale behind their base rate, our base rate was purely intended to reflect the money that previously came from the tax bill.
Okay, but when they do a bill, they bill based on the pipe size. Okay, then they have, in the county, they'll do the pipe size, and if you do sub-meters, okay, for each unit, you cannot overcharge what would be the regular charge for that size pipe. Now, the city does it a little different. They put it.
Can I stop you, because I think this is an important distinction. The consultant's recommendation originally was that if you had a 2-inch meter, you were going to pay 7 base rates for a 2-inch meter. That's just kind of an industry standard. We actually took that down to the next tier, and we're only charging 5 units. But then the motion was made to, no, we're not going to charge 5, we're going to charge the actual number of units being served. For example, there's a 2-inch meter that serves that building and those 20 units in the building right behind us that's shown on the work that Matt has produced. They're paying 20 base rates based off of the motion that was adopted by the board a year ago. And again, the equity of that is something that y'all are going to have to
They're paying
resolve.
20, you said there's 20 units in there, and they're paying 20 base rates, but they're also, when you divide it out, it's $300 per unit is a base rate. Because we don't know what folio numbers we've got going there. We've got too many going there. That one's $300 per unit. The other one, another 2-inch pipe, the 2-story villas, that's 320. No, that's the one you're talking about, 320. And then this other one works out to 480.
That's what I'm trying to get the engineer to straighten out and figure out.
So, okay, but my point here is too, when I look at the city of Naples, they do the same thing. They've got diversity, they've got waterfront, they've got all that stuff. What they do is they'll take that pipe charge, and what they'll add to each unit that's on that is their own base rate. It's not a 1. Like for example here, in 2025, per dwelling unit off of that pipe, they charge an extra $15. Now, we'd have to charge more than that, But they're not charging them $200 or $256 per unit.
I understand.
So, yeah, we've gotta look at
I mean, this
what
is
they
just,
do and see how we can convert to
So-
what we do.
all these bills that are gonna be late, I wanna make sure nobody's getting late charges.
They'll get late charges that will be reversed if the board establishes a different basis for hotel or marina condominium units.
Because nobody can pay these. I mean, I just don't think they're going to. You know, I mean, you get that bill for $24,000 or, anyway, I don't, yeah, so we can take,
I'm hoping-
Nobody disagrees with you, but I don't recall anybody ever coming in here and saying, hey, thanks for cutting our property tax bill by, $100,000 for the marina condo last year. It was an offset. And,
well, it's not an offset.
It was.
I was listening to him, yeah, but it doesn't work out to an offset by the time we're done for all these small units. It's not an offset.
Well,
It's an offset for me.
that's the policy.
It's offset for a condo, but it's not an offset for
I
these.
understand, but that wasn't the motion that was made a year ago, and if we're gonna revise those next month, and we're only going to charge, I'm just gonna pick a number and say, for a hotel unit, we're only gonna charge 75% of the base rate. Those are gonna be the policy decisions that the board has to grapple with.
Okay, well, I just wanna read this top thing, because I went to the county, and talked to this, Anya, who explained their billing system, and they have an ordinance here, whatever you wanna call it, and it's a Collier County Water Sewer District Uniform Billing Operating and Regulatory Standards Ordinance. So that's where I want us to get, something that's uniform and fair. This is, and just so people know, the future of this billing for the county, for the next 3 years, they have, rate increases of, potable water, 4% per year for the next 3 years. Sewer, 9% a year for the next 3 years. And reclaimed water, 9% a year for the next 3 years. So we haven't had a water rate increase in forever. So when we get this squared away, you could be expecting to see 5 to 10% increases in your water every year for the next 3 years. And it's not gonna be abnormal, just so you understand that and you don't freak out when it starts going up.
Well, like I said, I met the engineer, I told him what we wanted, and I was anticipate having a meeting in August, a work meeting in August, so we could go through everything that he's come up with and see if we feel that it's fair and equitable to everyone, and then bring it to the August meeting to vote on it. We gotta start someplace.
Yeah?
It's not right and it's not fair and we've gotta fix it. So that's where we're gonna start.
And those are all policy decisions that
That we
are
make
at the
it
sole
August.
discretion of the board. As long as I get $1,568,000 to operate the utility plant and the distribution system, how we arrive at that.
Yeah, we just wanna make sure that we get it from the right people.
Right.
And that one person, one group is not paying the lion's share of it.
Right.
My advice to
I figured that.
those two customers, the marina condo and the hotel condo, was to either make a payment under protest and reserve the right to claim a credit, or to make a partial payment based off of whatever they feel that is appropriate. I haven't heard back from either one of them. So they've got options, and I've shared that with both of them.
So hopefully by August we have something that we can work with. Like I said, I'd like to see a work session in August, a couple weeks prior to the meeting.
Separate workshop.
Yes.
The final item that I have today has to do with our community or CID building status report. If you go to the next tab in your agenda materials, the final tab before the financials, I've created a special report that shows the costs that have been incurred to date. And those costs are $54,924.01. And again, all of that comes back to the district as a credit against lease payments that are otherwise due over the next 3-year period. In addition to that, your motion last month was to spend up to $62,000. I don't know that we're going to have any further construction or repair costs for that facility. But as you know, a resident here filed a complaint with the county, and the county issued a red tag and are going to evaluate a building permit application for the work that was performed. That for the most part was very minimal, but included a demolition of a small wall and the removal of some old kitchen cabinets, and then new kitchen cabinets and associated electric service and plumbing service lines to different areas on the backside of that wall, and some minor roof repairs that were done to the roof and a new air conditioning unit. So those are the costs, and I don't have any reason to believe there will be further costs, but in response to the county, we've retained a state licensed general contractor to submit the application on our behalf and to prepare a dimensioned floor plan to accompany that to show the scope of work. And that firm is JBD Enterprises, and I also attached a copy of his proposal for the work that we performed. The total is $3,000 for his fee, and then up to $3,000 for the engineer's fee to produce the drawings and to complete the application. I have every reason to believe, based off of a meeting that I held with the contractor last Friday, that I know he's completed the drawings, and I know that he intends to file the application as soon as tomorrow. And so as a result of that, then there will be a series of inspections, and we will reclassify the use of the building from a commercial real estate type of use, which it was historically, to the now intended use, which is more of a clubhouse and place of assembly for our meetings. And so that's just a paper process, but we will reclassify the zoning use of the building as part of this. Be happy to answer any questions.
We don't need to vote on that, you're just gonna do that,
No, you
right?
voted last month to establish the limit for the repair and the construction. We are under that budget at this point, and I have separately retained a general contractor and an engineer for what I think is very nominal expense to get the after-the-fact permit and all the inspections that would be necessary as part of that.
As an additional item, I'm in direct communication with code enforcement, and they're fully aware of where we are in this process. And the typical way to resolve this is getting the permit, which we are doing. So there should be I anticipate this time, no significant results from any sort of code enforcement action.
That's in the system. I did get one additional proposal to paint the exterior of the building, and that'll be in the next payables run, but that's still within that $62,000 allowance that you guys had established. If there's anything else, I mean, we've processed reimbursements, but as I sit here today, I'm not aware of anything in addition from a vendor or a contractor standpoint. And I don't have any reason to believe that rework will be necessary, but will be the general contractor's responsibility. If for some reason they want to see the electrical, system rework, then it'll be up to him to coordinate that with our electrical subcontractor. The final thing that I have today are the financials. These are as of 7 months, and at the very back of your agenda materials today for the month ending April the 30th. And so at the close of business on the 30th, the district had a combined $5,537,000 in cash. There's an additional due to and due from as we move money back and forth between the utility fund and the general fund. In addition to that, there's about another $6.9 million in fixed assets. That's net of depreciation. It represents the value of your utility system and the associated street lights and infrastructure, roads and drainage that you own. Total assets on hand, $12,824,000. There were $200,000 in payables that are shown on the liability portion of the balance sheet at the end of that month. You turn to the next page, or the income statement. Some things that I think are interesting. Your monthly interest earnings continue to be very high. I think we'll be a little under the forecast towards the end of the year. I think we're going to be about $135,000 to $140,000 in interest for the year. We had originally budgeted $160,000. Rates ticked down a little bit since we had prepared the budget from a year ago. Special assessments, good news. You received $34,343 in April. All of that money would have been delinquent at that point, and so in addition to the taxes, there are fees and interest charges that we will receive as a result of that. Additionally, I can tell you that certain certificates went to sale in May and June, which is not out of the ordinary for this community. So during the month of May, I received an additional $98,562 for taxes that were either paid right before they went to the public auction or as a result of the auction. So my total assessments on hand at the end of 7 months to date are $790,000. That actually represents about 97% or 2% more than what I would normally expect. And the reason for that, again, is interest charges and late fees on those delinquent taxes. So all good news on the tax side. Looking at the expenses on page 2, I just want you to see where we are recognizing those costs associated with the new CID building. We've got a new line item there called R&M buildings. During the month of April, we charged $47,000 against that line item. The total year-to-date is $52,000. That's where we are now expensing all of those building renovation or repair costs. In addition, we've got some repair and maintenance grounds right above that. That was a budgeted item, and that reflects the work that was done in the median and the work to date on the signage for the new entry sign there. And so I just wanted you to see where we are expensing those new charges every month. Addition, the other things that I flagged, we are on budget on the utility side. Keep in mind that we bill in advance. We bill in arrears bi-monthly. And so while we have billed the first 3 bills for the year, they're not due until the 15th of May. And so next month you'll see what our sort of actual mid-year actuals are based off of the bills that were performed. The only other thing I wanted to highlight, because it is over budget, is the repair and maintenance of lift stations. In the first quarter of this year, you actually rebuilt 2 of the sewage lift stations on FUS's recommendation. That was not budgeted work, but there will be an offsetting budget amendment there. But year to date, we've spent $108,000 rebuilding sewage lift stations. Overall, though, in terms of total expenditures in the utility fund, we're $101,000 under budget year to date in the utility fund, and we're $154,000 under budget in the general fund. And with that, I'll stop and see if you have any questions. If not, you can entertain a motion to accept.
Make a motion to accept the budget.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Alright.
Zach, that takes us down to you.
All right, I have 3 large updates, or just general things to go over. One, in the Prep Mac litigation, we did have the hearing on the entitlement to attorney's fees, and we are waiting on the magistrate's ruling.
Could you speak up and talk to us?
Sure, I can talk to everybody. In the Prep Mac lawsuit, we had a hearing on the board's entitlement to have its attorney's fees reimbursed. The court is still considering, and so we have not received a ruling on that. As soon as we have that ruling, you will be the first to know. But the motion was filed, it was heard, it was argued, Lenore argued it, and we should have a ruling back soon, but this particular magistrate is not the fastest when it comes to rendering decisions. 2, you received a letter from counsel to Orchid Cove, Cohen and Boyd, demanding that you all confirm in writing that you will not be changing the payment position as to the 2020 settlement agreement. I have spoken with this attorney as of this morning, and what I will say to you all is I continue to have significant concerns about the validity of the 2020 agreement. I believe that this needs to be readdressed by the board. And I have offered, and that I would advise you all look for direction to have a sit down with an Orchid Cove board member and their attorney so we can talk about a revised agreement as to all of the agreements, the 2011 agreement, the 2018 agreement, the 2020 settlement agreement, to get to a uniform and consistent way of dealing with this particular issue, because what is in that 2020 settlement agreement, in my opinion, is not legally enforceable. The district cannot agree to, in perpetuity, benefit a subset of the district with no public purpose. I don't see that here. And the agreement is clearly silent as to the end date. The minutes aren't silent, but the letter I got here indicates that Orchid Cove's position, and if I'm wrong about this, I would love to be wrong about this, is that this agreement just goes on forever and you guys are going to pay for these upgraded streetlights forever. I don't think that's what this agreement could possibly have said, legally. If you're a government body, you need to spend money for the public benefit. So I think the simplest answer here is to sit down and renegotiate this. There clearly in the minutes was some indication that this was an offset for a dispute. You are allowed to settle claims. We can renegotiate this with clear, defined timeframes. And what I would ask you all is, if you agree with my advice to attempt a pre-suit negotiation, that you identify a board member to attend that meeting with me. But what I would not advise you to do is respond to this letter. I don't think that we have any obligation to confirm in writing that we're going to continue paying on an agreement that had no end date, has no articulatable basis, and provides a disproportionate benefit to certain members of the community.
And we provided every board member with a copy of the letter. It had a series of attachments that were just former recorded agreements. I didn't provide all of the attachments, but I did want you to have the letter, and if you want to see the attachments, I'll be happy to email it to you.
I think many of you have seen these attachments. They are the actual underlying agreements. But is that, can I get that direction? Will someone attend this meeting with me?
I make the motion that we have a meeting and work it out.
I offered to.
I agree.
Okay, so, and then you're all in agreement that Kevin will attend the meeting with me?
You gonna be here?
It doesn't need to be in person. We just need to have a sit down with them. We need to understand what the district is doing for everybody as to streetlights.
When did he take that out? Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then once we have that information, I think there's a logical replacement agreement.
Oh, at least she doesn't have to keep going back.
Mute this person. That we can get a logical replacement agreement for all 3 of these agreements that she lists that is fair and defensible under Florida law.
Need a motion.
I agree.
And you all agree that Kevin will attend, and if that's the case, then Kevin and I will contact you and we'll schedule that meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, second on that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Okay, and then the third thing is now that we have data to support the cost of the ERCs, we can resume the conversation about the marina's utility obligation with its site development plan. I did have the opportunity to dive deeper into their county approvals, and it appears that they are actually in the middle of a building permit right now for that change to that 2020 site plan that had the utility availability letter. And so I can't tell without talking further to the county. They may not have finished the change that required the utility modification yet. And so my initial advice at this point would be, instead of demanding that the marina pay anything in particular, that we notify the county that these credits have not been purchased. And then the county can ask the marina to provide documentation of the credits.
So the marina completed everything, and they don't have the proper permit?
Well, if they've completed everything, then they don't have the permit, because there's a permit in the portal right now that says it's effectuating that site plan, and it has not even had an inspection completed. So if the work's done, then I would change my position. The reason why what caused me to go look at this is when we were having the negotiation with PrepMax Council, we brought this up. And what we were told by PrepMax Council at the time was, we haven't done this work yet, that's why we didn't buy the credits. I then looked at the portal, and from a permit level, that appears to be potentially true. But if you're telling me that the site plan was completed, I have a different opinion about this. But I think that it doesn't change the initial step.
Well, I'm just figuring the liveaboards are there, so I just figured it was complete.
I think the initial, but I still think the initial step is, now that we have the numbers, to notify the county that these have never been, our understanding, Neil has reviewed, your engineer has reviewed, the credits have never been purchased or required by them. And so, my suggestion is if I can get direction to notify the county as to that point, and then the county can put a hold on the building permit if necessary. But I'm not sure how we're gonna figure out that next part, which is, if you're telling me that they already did it all, we need to find out when they did it, because then we have a different issue, which is they should have been paying additional ERCs over time, which is what we originally thought. So it's a little bit of a fluid issue, and it's hard if they didn't pull permits like they were required to. But I don't know if, that may not be true, I don't know. So, but I think that, again, the initial step is, if we need to notify the county that, because the county doesn't know these things, because the county is not you. So all the county knows is they got a letter from you saying that there's the credits available to buy. They need to be told that they were not bought. So
what do you need from us?
just acknowledgement that that's the direction you'd like to go.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll do that as well. And those are my updates. If you have questions, I can answer any of your questions.
Again, I don't know, it's related. Orchid Cove has, we've had this discussion before, and they have 11 plots there that are owned by the County. Can we acquire those? I mean, the community, we're losing out on spreading the wealth as far as taxes and assessments and everything by not having those units built. But Orchid Cove themselves, if there was 44 more units there, because I counted 11, and their HOA fees, you figure that out, that's over $350,000 a year they're losing for their own community. Now, I know that was built by Craft Construction, and it had special construction guidelines or whatever, and supposedly that's what they have to do, but that could be amended, I would think, and changed to the same style, but a different basic construction. You know what I mean? Maybe just solid walls, maybe they pour concrete, you know, the whole thing as far as block and then concrete. So is there a way we can acquire that from the county so that we can move forward with this instead of just having them all empty?
I don't know enough about the deed restrictions to know to what extent that would limit a developer or somebody to come in and try and build some product there.
Well, that's what I mean. Can't they change that?
I would think at this point, if the residents are in charge of the condominium association and the ARB process, which is part of their covenants and declaration, it could be difficult, but that might need a little bit of legal analysis just to see what the case law is. spoke to Russ Wire about this and asked him, as part of the work that he performed and presented last month, if we could reimpose our operating and maintenance assessment on those county parcels the same way that I do the county marina and boat ramp. And he said that it was arguable, and he didn't recommend it because there's no income stream that's tied to it. He considers them to be, parcels that are not currently contributing, and that it might be hard to collect from the county. The county does pay their assessments on the marina. That was something that we imposed. This will be the third year now, and so they're paying for those. So Russ's recommendation for the moment was there's no real revenue stream that we should pursue because he wasn't optimistic. We're already having discussions with the county over the hotel site, or would hope to, and we can explore this at the same time.
Well, that's what I would think,
I think we need to find out a little bit more about are the deed restrictions and the requirements of their architectural review and approval process an impediment or a roadblock to a real developer wanting to come in and try and construct some product here to sell it.
Well, just you have to see if there's some kind of waiver that can be, because I know they're not gonna build, that aerated concrete that came in slabs, they're not gonna build it like that. Nobody's gonna build it like that. So if it's the basic construction blocks, then I'll have to look at something else, but I just thought we could, again, the more residents are here, it spreads the wealth, keeps the cost down.
Yeah, I've been here long enough to know it's a big deal at Orchid Cove. They think that's their big plug, that they can force a successor developer to come in there and build exactly what is there now in the color scheme that is there and this, that, and the other thing. Whether that's defensible, I just don't know.
Yeah, well, I just wondered if they can change the rules. I mean, they're hurting their own community by not building.
I was contacted about 6 months ago by a developer who was exploring building coach home condominium type style units there, and he specifically asked me as to whether we were imposing non-ad valorem assessments on the current county held parcels. I told him we were not, but I do know there has been some interest on the part of developers who understand and are in the business to build that type of product.
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure's all there. I mean,
Fully entitled,
it should be a hell of a lot cheaper for them
Yeah.
to build on that site.
presumably ERCs were paid at some time, but if not, that's again one of those sort of issues that would need to be investigated because there are no good records on it. Any other supervisor or new requests?
On the Hotel North Lot, we're still pursuing that. I heard you say earlier that a like situation.
Yeah, based off of what occurred at the county commission meeting, you're talking about the old North Hotel
Yes,
site? The county commission seemed to be inclined that they did not want to limit interest for the potential sale of that just for workforce or affordable housing. And obviously that's not something that we want to pursue. And we are waiting to hear back from them when they are going to issue their request for negotiations and the schedule. And that could occur this summer. I got an email from the county's real estate director, and he did tell me that work is underway. So as soon as I get a copy of their request for negotiations and a schedule, I'll share that with the board.
Okay. The other thing I have is, as going around the neighborhoods, I noticed that there's 3 street sign situations. Stella Maris South, the sun's just baking where you can't even see them. We've got Stella Maris South, Evening Star K, and then also the pole, which I've already mentioned at a previous meeting, entering to K, it's just rotted off at the bottom. We put a pole inside there to hold it up temporarily, but those 3 items need addressed.
If you'll share those with Billy, we'll run those down with either Matt or what type of pole are you referring to?
the galvanized pole that holds up a street sign.
Okay,
And then the others are just street signs themselves. You just can't read the writing because the sun's baked them to where.
and we'll schedule, we've got a vendor locally that does that type of thing, and I may need a backup vendor to get them installed just because they've got so much work, like in Signcraft, that do a lot of that. There is a firm, I think, up in Cape Coral now, but if you'll give those locations generally to Billy, and then we'll come down here and survey the street name placards as part of that.
Okay.
Kevin, this is Lisa Sager. You might want to check the one on Sunset K. I know when I walk by it, the thing's always rattling, like it seems like it's barely holding together where it says like Sunset K and K's Drive. You just might want to check that one too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dan or Lisa, anything in addition?
No, oh, I got more.
No.
I got more. When are we gonna start spending money, and what are we doing about Florida Utilities and that pipe? Because he said that his bid, he was gonna lose money, so what did we decide on that? I thought we were gonna make an adjustment to that so he can get that done, and then what about all the other stuff we haven't been talking about, as far as capital improvements? We gotta get this water thing done. We got all our grants, right?
Soccer balls in the back of the car.
Yeah, well, the grants
So-
right now, we're waiting on the contract to come from FEMA. The FEMA contract should be coming, I thought by the end of June, we should have that. They gave us up to 90 days for them to complete the contract. And we're waiting for that. When that comes, we sign off on that, and then the money starts coming in, we start moving. I talked to Mitch about the issues with the water line. I think we're in a good place with that. I think Mitch is still going to put the water line in at this time. So the grants things are changing back and forth a little bit. We picked up the match grant, which covers almost all of our expenses that the first grant didn't. It looks like we might have, because we had duplicate grants in different requesting money from different sources of FEMA. We may be able to reallocate some of that money. The long story short, the grant money could look more like $4 million than $3 million if it all works out, that we can pick another project. So we may be able to pick a project. It could be the water lines from the utility building out to the 41. Some of that, the rest of that concrete asbestos line. There's a lot going on right now in that grant process, but it's going in our favor right now. And that's all I can tell you until we get the contract, which should come by the end of the month.
Well, what about the water lines from the well field?
That's what the contract is. That's the contract and what it's for.
He said the water lines to 41. I'm talking about.
That's additional.
No, that's additional.
That would take us up to the 4 million if we get a notice of award on that.
Okay, so what are we doing?
We
I
need
mean,
a
are we-
contract.
Huh?
He's waiting for a contract from
What about
FEMA.
the water tank? What about the tank? We were gonna build another
Yes.
tank. What happened to that?
It's going to be here. We got the award notice for it. It's a game. I mean, it's 3.5 years in, and we are waiting right now for their contract.
It does require a match. The federal money is only 75%, and so there are funds that are available separately from the state, but anything that is in addition, we're gonna have to make up with our own money. That's a condition of the FEMA award. They'll only fund 75%. So we're waiting to get this contract to see exactly what our out-of-pocket expenses are gonna be.
So all the CID
we are-
about water is, we're all waiting just till we get these contracts.
Yeah, further, we did have a teleconference with the engineer. There's not a mechanism within our contract to Florida Utility Systems for him to seek a change order for the increase in PVC pipe. It's not available. So if Mitch is intending to do the work for the price that he gave us in recognition that petroleum and associated costs have tapered off a little bit, he'll need to sign the contract and get it back to us. He's got a bid, the board has awarded the bid, He separately asked us to evaluate whether he could get an increase to his bid under the contract that was submitted, and the answer to that's no. So he's either going to have to do it for the price that he proposed, or he's going to have to say, I can't do it, and say, and then we'd have to rebid that job. If Dan's had a conversation with him in the last week that he is intending to do it for the price that he bid, then that would be good news.
There are some things that will open up to us in the future. In the grant pool, there's extra monies, and we may be able to request some of that extra money for the inflation in the pipe and things like that. That is something I can't tell you that's going to happen. I talked to the grant people about it, and we may be able to do that. I talked to Mitch about it. He understands that.
Dan, in that regard, I did get 2 invoices from Berquist. The first one was for their invoice for the $77,000 that we have already received this year from FEMA for those associated costs at the well field, the $77,000. I'm intending to process that, but I need to talk to you separately about. They've also submitted an invoice for the grant, and the invoice that they submitted was for $300,000, and I just need to have a better understanding as to, I'm not going to process that until we've got that money in hand, but I need to know to what extent either state or other grant funds are available to help cover the cost of the consultant's fee for the work that was performed.
Yeah, we can go through that. We just were covering some of that. We just signed it, or actually I talked to the grant people at the state about some of that recently. So it's a process. I would not pay any of his bills till we have the money.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's just the way that goes. So we signed an agreement with him originally that says he gets 10%. The FEMA is going to pay 5% of that. We just filled out some paperwork last week that applying for the FEMA 5% for the handling of the grant. So we should get that 5% back through that. And there will be 5% of it that would be ours to cover.
We have also identified a resource. Some of this is uncharted territory for me, but the city of Everglades has extensive experience with FEMA related work, and we've introduced ourselves to the finance director down there, and she has indicated she'd be a resource for us as well.
Okay.
Everybody's worked on a lot of these things, and just to put on the record, just because I know it's frustrating, the significance, and this was hard learned by one of my clients. They had a situation where they had been granted the money, but they did not have the agreements in place, and they just went ahead and did the project. This led to a 2 to 3 year audit. We did not get the money. It was a really bad situation because the grant monies, unfortunately, come with these very strict requirements. And in fact, in that situation, the client actually was able to complete the project at a ratio of 8 points, something like 50% less than what they expected to. So it should have been seen as a wild success because they got the project done for 50%, 50 cents on the dollar, and we still were subject to a substantial audit and had to work through a huge amount of red tape to not get the money. So it is very frustrating, but FEMA, and going back to Everglades, the reason why I wanted to put us in contact with our finance administrator there is she has worked through some of these things. And most recently, they had an IRMA project that got paid out this year. IRMA was 2017. So, FEMA is a notoriously difficult entity. It is very frustrating, and I think that as a board, what we have to keep in mind is you really have 2 options. You can do that, or you have to self-fund it. And so it makes sense to try to do what you're doing, which is get the FEMA money. At the end of the day, you can get it. It is a massive savings advantage to the district because it's free money in a sense, or you have to just pay for it. And that obviously, and in some instances, I've seen clients just choose at a certain point to just abandon the grant process and pay for it. But that's really the option. It's not, we can't take a middle ground and just say, well, we'll just do it because we know they said yes, because then you get in a situation where you just can't spend the money, which is very frustrating. It's not very practical, I understand that.
We don't really have anything that's an emergency that have to get done, really. So,
And interestingly, in that scenario that I described, it was an emergency, and we had a different agency telling us that if we didn't do it immediately, we were going to lose our wastewater permit. And the auditing entity still said, yeah, we don't care, you need to sign the agreement first.
The agreements are coming. They gave us 60 to 90 days when we got our award letter. I talked to them and they said 60 to 90 days to receive the contract, and we have to wait for that contract to come. That's the way it is.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Any other new or supervisor business?
Okay, just this is,
parody AI, where you can make select.
I have just a hypothetical. Cause did you say something about, I heard you saying something about withdrawing from this district, Everglades City, or something was going on? I just caught a piece of it, but anyway.
I made a comment at the beginning that Everglades would like to join the Collier Mosquito Control District.
Oh, okay.
They affirmatively would like to.
Yeah. No, okay. What I wanna know is what the feeling is out there if that property tax thing goes through. And, we will no longer be, paying. How are they gonna decide? I mean, from what I've read, like for the fire department, right? Everything's gonna be ad valorem, which means every property gets treated at a flat rate. Have you read anything like that, or, I mean?
Well, there seems to be a large amount of general confusion as to what's going to happen should this go through. A lot of governments are going to have to switch to more of a fee-based model if this goes through as one consideration. On the other hand, it may not be as big of a deal as it's being broadcast because, certainly for you all, you guys are essentially in a fee-based model. You're not in the ad valorem world. And so this doesn't really impact your budgetary concerns, but as to fire, it will impact fire. And fire is going to have to really rethink what they do. Some of them are in more trouble than others, and some of them can't assess fees. And so I don't know if Ochapi has the ability to assess fees. If they can't, this will be a significant issue for Ochapi.
Well, when I talked to one of these guys over here the other day, they said Ochapi was gone. They said, we were Greater Naples. I said,
No.
I said, no, you're administering. Of course, all their employees are Greater Naples too. Everybody is.
There basically is no such thing as an Ochapi employee, but the actual legal status of this is the Ochapi Fire Control District is a real entity that is part of Collier County. Collier County contracts the entire operation of this to Greater Naples, and I would suggest that actually puts you in a more robust position because Greater Naples has agreed to provide this service by contract to Collier. And so if the revenues change, Greater Naples has still agreed to provide the service. So I think that the district, as to this particular challenge, the potential loss of ad valorem revenue is in an okay position. But as Greater Naples has already proved, when they aren't able to fund their obligations, they threaten to terminate providing the service. They did this 2 or 3 years ago, and they threatened to pull out of all of Ochapi when they couldn't get the extra $1 million they wanted, and the county ended up giving them the extra $1 million. So I do think that this potentially could lead to a somewhat volatile situation that could lead to, I think, where you're headed, which is relooking at this. Relooking at this from a practical standpoint of, should we be having this intermediate entity called Ochapi that really doesn't own things, doesn't have employees, but is the technical fire service provider, instead of just working directly with Greater Naples?
I think also to your question, I think it will pass because it just sounds good and feels good.
Yeah.
The average voter, are you in support of lower property taxes? I mean, who's going to vote against that?
Yeah.
But it's going to do two things. It's going to push that burden onto non-homesteaded properties. So if you're a snowbird, you're not going to get to claim that increasing up to $250,000 in homestead protection. And if you're a commercial property owner or an industrial property owner, it's going to push that burden down onto homestead properties, or it's going to see general government do what we do. They're gonna all come up with a non-ad valorem assessment.
Right, that's what I was.
Because that's not tied to the assessed value of the property and a millage. And in fact, the county has been doing this for some time.
But then it said that if they do that non-ad valorem, it has to go to a flat rate, and everybody gets charged the same.
And they do that now for solid waste. Your property taxes do not include any solid waste costs for either recycling, collection, or landfill. They're all tied to a flat non-ad valorem assessment rate that appears separately on that tax bill. And I think you'll see counties and cities try and do that with fire and EMS or parks. I think there's going to be a whole host of legal challenges to the bill that the governor signed. And none of it's going to be effective until July the 1st of next year at the earliest. And so I just think there's going to be a lot of jockeying for position between now and then.
There's an existing lawsuit challenging the ballot language, so which is a pretty good signal that this is going to be heavily litigated. So unfortunately, in this whole process, I think the legislature has been less than clear about what the plan is and what they suggest local governments do to react. They've just sort of been pushing this as a thing they're going to do, and it has put local government at a little bit of a disadvantage because if someone comes in and tells you that we're going to remove billions of dollars of revenue and doesn't provide a suggestion as to how you're going to replace that hole, that's a pretty caustic position to be in. But again, for you all, you're not ad valorem based, and so as to your essential services, I think this is a non-issue. But from a fire perspective, this is a very real issue.
I agree. Any other questions? If not, your next meeting that will also include the public hearing will be July the 16th. Unless we tell you otherwise, it will be here. But if we get a CO for the CID building, then we'll advise you of that if that were to occur, over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Excuse me.
according-
Hello.
Wait a minute.
Hi there. I requested to make a statement. This is Liliana, and I haven't heard back.
We're not to that part yet.
Hang on one second.
According to the schedule here, it says, item A, parcel 13 redevelopment. Is somebody going to talk on that? On the agenda, it's right down the agenda.
That was a carryover from last month.
Okay.
I don't have anything further on that. That was on the agenda last month, so the prospective developer could introduce himself to this board. So I'm sorry for that.
Well, with something like that, what are we doing about operation and maintenance charges on that property? It's not developed, doesn't have a plan.
He paid him this year.
But
Paid him the last 2 years since I've been here.
This is in
The
the,
indication payment?
Yeah.
he has paid them, but to board member Truckey's point, the question is, at what rate is he paying them?
Did he pay him for 109 or something like that, or did he pay for 200?
So this is addressed inside the study that you all received. I'm trying to find the right page. The prior study, and I think this was part of the modification made to the current study, had that lot at a different rate because it was previously owned by you all. The current study does not appear to make any distinction as to that property. So my reading of the current study is that it just gets the normal per acre charge, which will most likely be an increase for that property as it currently stands, to 4 per acre, most likely. The commercial, this is on page 21, the commercial per acre is 4 per acre. I think that we'd have to look and see how we need to be clear about the vacant piece, but this is the third meeting we've had this study. The first meeting, it was shown by your consultant as treated the way it is now, and you all, and I believe Board Member Truckey pointed this out, asked for that to be re-looked at. It was re-looked at, and so I expect that as part of this movement, it will be increased, but just for clarity, he has been paying what he's been asked to pay. But it will likely go up as a result of this modification.
And he'll have to back pay that, any monies from the time the contract ended?
No, because it was assessed through the O&M process, so it will just be a go forward modification up.
We have it under lawsuit right now to collect the monies that we've lost, correct?
Yes, as to the failure to purchase the ERCs, but we're not. He was assessed specifically through an O&M process and paid that amount. So there's not a dispute there. What there is, and what you've done, is you've re-looked at that, given the current facts, which is that he didn't buy those things, and he needs to be assessed as vacant property. And then separately, you're suing him for the amount that he didn't pay.
Right, but if the contract did go null and void at when we close that, okay, when he didn't pay his monies, if we go back to that date to look at what we've lost since the contract ended, would that not be collectible?
We can review that as damages in that lawsuit, yes. It wouldn't be done through, I see what you're saying, it wouldn't be done through the assessments, but it very well could be damages for the lawsuit, because had we been paid for the ERCs and had he developed it as he indicated, that's how it would have been done. Instead, he didn't pay, so then we are at a down position because we didn't assess it in the normal way. So I agree that is very potentially lawsuit damages in that dispute, in addition to the amount he didn't pay the district.
Right.
The next is, there is public comment on the agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, the final item is public comment.
Let Ileana speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi there, appreciate it. Hello again, of course. My name is Liliana Manta, and I wanted to be clear that I am the individual who contacted Collier County to confirm whether permits were required for the guard building project. I'd like to understand how we arrived at the situation we face today. According to county records from 2023, those individuals with the property were advised that approvals and permits would be required before the building could be converted or its use changed. The county specifically cautioned that no work should be performed until permits were issued. Despite that, in March 2026, the CID entered into a lease for the building and construction activities were initiated to convert it into a clubhouse or sales office before the necessary permits had been obtained. The result was a work order, code enforcement actions, and approximately $54,000 of community funds being spent on the project. My question to the board is straightforward. If the permitting and approval requirements were already known, what steps were taken to ensure compliance before construction began? And why were community funds committed before all required approvals and permits were secured? In addition, a public records request was submitted seeking correspondence and documents related to the guard building project beginning in January 2026. To date, those records have not been produced. And when can residents expect them to be made available? I am also concerned that questions about this project have been met with accusations rather than answers. The board, through legal counsel, alleged that I harassed volunteers, yet no specific contact or individuals have been identified despite my repeated requests for clarification. At the same time, when I raised questions about work being performed without permits, Frank Lee and Ron Westerman contacted the sheriff's office and prevented me from accessing the guard building. I am unaware of any effort by the board to address those concerns or explain why a resident asking questions about the project was treated in that manner. I would also like to know whether I will be prevented from entering the guard building in the future or whether any restrictions have been placed on me by the board. If so, I would appreciate being informed of the basis for those restrictions. As a resident, I am simply asking for transparency, accountability, and equal treatment, and answers to reasonable questions about how community funds was spent and how this project was managed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I can just, for the board's benefit, right now, until we obtain the certificate of occupancy, it is my advice that no one be in the building except for those working on the project. And so we're not excluding any one particular person, but we're excluding everyone until the certificate of occupancy is achieved. As Neil indicated in his update earlier, we are diligently working on any and all required approvals, and what I will conclude with is not every piece of work requires a permit. However, we are not contesting the county's position, and we will get all required permits as necessary as soon as possible using the appropriate licensed professionals. Thank you.
With respect to the public records request, it has been responded to, and the individual who made the request received an analysis of nominal cost necessary to obtain and make copies or scans of, I think, 1,200 pages of documents, and we have yet to receive payment to support the nominal expenses that are allowed under the statute.
Okay, so obviously I requested those.
Other issues pertaining to you and individuals of this community that may have risen to the level of law enforcement. The district's not a party to any of that, and I would submit that if law enforcement was called on a prior occasion, that's not a matter that we would necessarily be involved in.
But however, you were involved in sending me a letter about harassing volunteers. These are the same volunteers that called the sheriff on me, and nothing was looked into and nothing was done about it. So how do you justify that part?
I appreciate this. I think that was Neil just providing an update to the board, not an invitation for a debate. But I do think it's important to confirm that the district, in its official capacity, did not call law enforcement. I appreciate everyone's interest in making sure this is done correctly, and so it is going to be done correctly.
Other public comment? Barring any, then again, the next meeting will be on July.
Hello, I have a quick question. My name is,
Yep.
okay, my name is Leo Ramos from the Hotel Condominium Association. And my question to you is, when you gave all these rooms a base rate, was there a study conducted to determine each room to determine the base rate, or this was something that you pulled out of a hat? So I want to see that report to determine you get a base rate and then you're going to charge for usage. Again, my unit is only 300 square feet, and seeing a $300 bill or $200 bill for 2 months, I think that's a bit extreme. So I wanted to see a report how you came to this number. And this way we could then be, I guess, fair to everyone in the community, like ones that have 3 baths or, pools where I only have a sink, 2 sinks maybe, and a toilet and a shower. That's all in my room. And I can't see how determining to pay X amount of dollars for, if you have a report to determine how you came up with this number, I would love to see it. That's my request.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I believe that the board today indicated that they are looking at this again. But I will say that this was publicly workshopped. All the board's minutes and a lot of the videos are on the website, and all of that can be reviewed. But again, my understanding is the board is, as they said today, actively working on reassessing this exact question. So thank you very much for your comment.
In specific response to your request, that document has been on the district's website for a year. It is readily available through the website and identified as the utility rate analysis, and the links are all there.
Okay, great. I'm going to look for that.
Thank you. Yes,
Just
ma'am.
can you come forward to the microphone?
Right there.
If you just stand right by the cookies.
Thank you.
Okay, just wanted to ask you, you're reviewing all of this. I thought last week that,
You need your name for the minutes.
Oh, Cynthia Alberto, thank you. Okay, so, last meeting, you voted to reduce the cost. And where are we at with that? You're reviewing it again, or
No,
is it
no,
going to
no.
be effective?
They're going to adopt it at next month's meeting as part of the final budget approval
Okay.
for the fiscal year that will begin on October the 1st.
But the base rate reduction will happen way before that. It's not, it will be
Yeah.
effective July 1, essentially.
Thank you so much.
Any other public comment? If not, motion to adjourn?
Make the motion,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Thank you all.